Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 54. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Getting ready for this quick turnaround, this Thursday night game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cleveland Browns. Mirrored records, mirrored standings in the AFC North. Pittsburgh 8-2 in first place, Cleveland 2-8, and in last place in the division. Dave, I know we have our 8 pounds in one hand, our 5-pound bag in the other. We're trying to fill it up here on this short week. And so been a crazy couple of days, but ready to preview this game with you.
Yeah, happy Wednesday to you. Should be a fun show today. And you're right, trying to cram all this in. Man, I was trying to roll through tape really quickly last night, switch back and forth between Ravens and Steelers, and then go through several of the Browns games on top of it, pulling out stats and having 220 Google Chrome windows open and trying to
always have that though.
Yeah, trying to do stuff on Blue Sky and integrate some stuff over there for those folks that are now switching over to that. Been fun, but I keep telling myself that man, if we could get through this Thursday night game, then all the football we'll be able to watch on Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday. And obviously Thanksgiving is my wife's doing better after her surgery now, and Thanksgiving is our both of our favorite holiday, if you will, on the calendar. It's just my favorite time of the year. So yeah, I think things are looking up, and obviously excited about this AFC North game. We got Hard Knocks right around the corner, starting a couple of weeks as well too. So a little bit excited about that. So where would you like to start on this Wednesday, Alex?
Yeah, where to begin? It's a really exciting time. Let's let you guys know, but later in the show, we do have a beat writer on this week, our friend Scott Petrak, who covers the Browns for a bunch of different outlets. And so we'll talk to him, get his perspective on what's happening in Cleveland this season. But let's, Dave, start with the Steelers' injury situation, their injury report. The final report will come out later Wednesday after Dave and I record this show. Monday was an estimated report. The team did not hold practice. Their first actual practice was Tuesday. And again, as we talked about on Monday, for short week coming off the Ravens game, Pittsburgh in a really good place health-wise overall. The only player who has not practiced this week due to injury and not rest is Alex Highsmith with that ankle injury. I can safely assume he will not play in this game against Cleveland. Probably will get officially ruled out on that final injury report Wednesday. Cory Trice Jr. has practiced in full in back-to-ball. Monday estimated report was listed as full, but practiced fully on Tuesday. I'll assume he'll do so again for Wednesday. Everybody else has been just veterans getting rested. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi. Should mention Michael Pruitt has practiced in full this week with that knee injury. They've also just kind of called it rest. So it sounds like Pruitt should go. We'll see if Trice gets activated. But overall, Pittsburgh in a really good spot health-wise.
Yeah, especially coming out of that game, you're not seeing Joey Porter Jr. On the injury report. Keanu Benton, I was kind of worried about him, the way we went down and holding his knee, and then obviously Mike Tomlin calmed those fears on Monday, but sometimes you wonder how that will ultimately play out, and you have an estimated practice report in there on Monday, and then it didn't sound like it was too overly physical of a practice on Tuesday. I would imagine with I would think they're traveling today, right? So I don't know what the how strenuous of a practice that Wednesday will be, but as you said, it sounds like we'll have Alex Highsmith ruled out. Hopefully Michael Pruitt will go full again and not get a game status update on him. And then the other really key factor you hit on as well too is this Thursday going to be a big day for Cory Trice Jr. Him getting activated from IR. Who's the person that goes? It kind of feels like that person might be Jonathan Ward, but we have guessed wrong before on that. And yeah, I mean, they're, for a short week and coming off of a chippy physical kind of game, if you will, against the Ravens, I think this stacks up pretty good for the Steelers overall. And we'll wait to see if that can be confirmed later today with the final injury report.
One other piece of Steelers information, transactional, is they've made an addition to the practice squad. They signed old friend Eric Rowe back to the practice squad. He was signed just actually, I think, 1 year to the day last year, November 20th of 2023. Ended up playing a really important role down the stretch, starting the final 3 regular season games, and the playoff loss to Buffalo. Was an impact player that had a really good stint. And so the team deciding to bring him back, probably some depth thereafter, releasing and not bringing back Terrell Edmonds. Overall, Pittsburgh healthy at safety, but Teryl Austin speaking and said that they just like his approach, his professionalism, a good person, and some depth on the practice squad should injury strike. And so Eric Rowe's back.
Yeah, and I don't know if are we gonna, it doesn't feel like there's any elevations coming. Does it feel like there's a need to elevate anybody?
No, since they're healthy, the only question will be if Trice gets activated in the corresponding move. I do agree if Trice does get does come off of IR, then I think Ward would get released. But I don't anticipate, unless nose tackle they were to do something. But with Benton being healthy, I would guess no. But the only thing I would watch for is maybe on the off chance of Fehoko were to get elevated.
All right, so let's see. Inactive list probably to look like Kyle Allen is the third quarterback, Alex Highsmith out, Max Sharping probably going to be on there. I would guess maybe Scotty Miller will be on there. I'll have to go through and figure out who might be the extra inactive there, but probably won't be stunning whoever it is.
Yeah, not sure who that fifth one would be if it's not going to be Jonathan Ward if Trice were to be activated, for example. But I'll let you figure all that stuff out in your weekly post.
Yeah, I'll have to go through and obviously we'll wait until Thursday and the transaction. So my prediction for inactives will come out shortly after any moves are made on Thursday.
From the Browns' health standpoint, and Scott will talk about this in a little bit, the name to really watch is their left tackle, Jedrick Wills, who's had a knee injury. He was limited on Tuesday. Status seems to be uncertain if he'll play and if he'll start. If not, then it'll be Jermaine Ifedi, that'll get to start his first, I believe, ever career start at left tackle. And so that could be a matchup for one Nick Herbig to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think, and I always call him Willis. I've called him Willis forever, and I called him Willis in the damn interview with Scott as well too. Wills. The thing with, I mean, regardless of who starts over on that side, it's going to be a tasty matchup for Nick Herbig over there. So especially if it is Jermaine Ifedi over there as well. So that's something to watch. I mean, Scott made it, obviously don't want to give too much away here, but Scott thinks it might be Jermaine over there, but that ends up getting a start. But that's probably the keyest injury. I know Myles Garrett showed up with a hip, but obviously he's expected to suit up and play, and we'll have to see if there's any other surprises of guys that get ruled out here.
Right, but I think left tackle situation, the only real injury situation to watch for Cleveland on their final Wednesday report. But again, that last report will come out here by the time probably most people are listening to the show. All right, Dave, where to from here? On Arthur Smith, Teryl Austin speaking to the media on Tuesday on this abbreviated week. Anything from those guys stick out? I'm trying to think back to what Arthur Smith had to say. Talked about the red zone inefficiency and trying to find a plan down there.
I thought the fourth down decision sounded like they maybe were thinking about getting Justin Fields. This is something that you pointed out the other day, right? Clock running down and probably not doing a good job of examining the situation, getting the right personnel on the field. And you had said it kind of felt kind of hurried up in there, and had they done it all over again and had the minutia worked out, we probably might have seen Justin Fields on the field in that situation, right?
Smith said he wished he would have done something different and said he did give consideration to using Fields in that moment, but because of the clock situation, he didn't want to have a fire sale of personnel, although they did change personnel on that play. But I know bringing a quarterback in and that can be a heavier change and more time-consuming switch. And so, yeah, they broke the huddle with 8 seconds left, and then they had the motion over Broderick Jones from right tackle to left tackle, ran that same play they did against Washington twice, and Broderick Jones got blown up on the play, and it did not work. But Smith regretting that and talked about still the possibility of using package plays, but also was careful in saying that Fields is not a gadget guy. He believes Smith does, that they have two legitimate starting quarterbacks. And so he wanted to make that point clear. But obviously, if Fields does play for the foreseeable future, then it'll be used in those package situational moments.
Yeah, and he's not, obviously he was asked because this is something else we hit on when he was asked about Taysom Hill, what he did with the Saints last week. Boy, I don't know how, I imagine you saw quite a bit of that Saints film and all like that. They use Taysom Hill in a lot of different ways in that game, getting him to football, wildcat, read option stuff, throwing the football to him on top of it there, and Arthur Smith made sure to say, look, that's a different kind of built player. Obviously, Justin Fields has the athletic ability to do the fun wrinkles with, but he's not a guy that you're obviously going to line up at tight end or do some of those other things that they did with him. All that being said, and once again, he's not going to give away the farm as far as secrets and game plan goes. And we even roll back to what we said at the start of the season here. This team needs to, when we expected Russell Wilson to be the starter, had to find a way to get Justin Fields on the field for 3, 4, 5, 6 snaps a game. Do I think it's going to be much more than that? Obviously not. But I think this game on a short week, on a package that you have had in place for quite some time now, wet conditions, snow, cold, all like that. I think you got to fight in red zone issues that this team has had. Although I'm with you, I don't think the end all do all with red zone is just bring in Justin Fields. I think you need to be judicious, have a plan for that. Obviously he can throw down in that situation, but I don't think if you get down there in the red zone, you're going to keep Justin Fields in the game for however many plays that trip is there. But what I'm trying to get at here is I think you will see Justin Fields on the field 4, 5, 6 snaps against Cleveland, specifically in short yardage situations, specifically maybe a goal to go type situation like that.
Yeah, I think you laid it out well, the reasons to use Fields more in this game and to continue those package plays. And again, some of that's situational, although you can do it on 1st and 10. They did it on 2nd and 11, so it doesn't have to be just 3rd and 1 or goal to go type stuff. It can be used really any situation. I kind of like using it first play of a drive just to kind of get the defense off kilter a little bit, and then it doesn't really disrupt flow because Wilson's not coming off the field and then going back on. He's just coming in maybe one play later. Yeah, I'm all for using Fields in the red zone. He's an asset. Obviously, we saw that when he started, but he is not the magic wand. He is not the cure-all. Not every red zone situation is 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line. Sometimes it's 2nd and 8 from the 17, and Pittsburgh has to be able to execute in their conventional, traditional offense in those situations. I think the run game, the traditional run game with Najee Harris and company, has to be better down there. They're not having enough success. They're not running enough on 1st down, I don't think either. I think the spacing and the route concepts have to improve. I thought it was really messy against a Baltimore team that played a lot of zone coverage, and a lot of routes were getting bunched up, and there just weren't clean, easy reads for the quarterback in that condensed space. So to me, those are two bigger issues that must get solved for this red zone offense to really materially change. Fields is an element of that, and he is an asset, but he is not just the play Fields and it'll all get better. I think the issues are more layered and complex than just that.
I would agree. All right, what else from Arthur Smith caught you?
I think that was basically it. Talked about some of the things on Russell Wilson, why he was throwing shorter, but Smith's answer predictably was about, defense dictates where the ball goes sometimes. I thought Baltimore, in a lot of moments, especially early downs, 1st, 2nd down, were taking away the deep ball, playing more 2 high looks. They would play more cover 1 and kind of man up on 3rd down. But defense, Baltimore knew that Pittsburgh's bread and butter was throwing the deep ball. And so they, and probably most teams in the future, their plan will be to take away those opportunities.
All right.
Going over to Teryl Austin, had some good comments about Peyton Wilson and his maturity and the great interception that he had. And so Austin has continually talked up Wilson since training camp and just like his approach overall. And so that was a big time play by Peyton Wilson.
It sure was, and you can't help but keep going back through that once again, over and over again, to see, man, it's amazing that he was able to make the play that he made on the football in that one. So it's good to see these young guys, draft class guys, contributing to this team in big, weighty moments, and that was a big play in this game Sunday for the Steelers defense.
Also talked about another young guy, second-year player in Nick Herbig, and his impact, and obviously the forced fumble was big, but Austin made sure to point out that, calling Herbig the catalyst on the 2-point play of him blowing up that crack toss and beating the block of the receiver and getting the pullers all caught up in him as well, that helped Joey Porter get free to make the tackle on the edge and prevent Baltimore from tying that game. So really saw some young guys stepping up in that win over the Ravens.
Man, when you go back and watch Isaiah Likely and Nelson Aguilar pre-snap on that final play, kind of playing grab ass over there, if you will, makes you kind of wonder if they knew exactly what their roles were going to be in that play. And Nick Herbig just shot the gap and really just blew the whole damn thing up. And as we stated the other day, Joey Porter Jr., his job was to hold the edge on the outside, and Lamar Jackson came right to him. So obviously a huge play in that game, because if they get the two-point conversion, who knows how the game rolls on from that point on.
I think we talked about it during the Monday live stream, I want to say, but Austin was asked about, with Trice seemingly close to a return, potentially getting activated this week, how all the pieces fit with him, with Cam Sutton, who's going to play, what are roles going to be. Austin says, quote, "We'll cross that when we get him back for sure. Corey was doing some really good things for us before he was injured. Once we get him back and evaluate him, we'll just move forward. And those are good problems to have when you've got a lot of good guys that are available to you," end quote. And that's the, I think, important point from Austin. It's good to have options and flexibility and health in this stretch run. But I am curious, Trice was holding down that 60B dime roll before getting hurt. Sutton now has it. I don't think Sutton will get pushed out of it, but I wonder if they can still find a way to get a guy like Trice on the field.
Yeah, especially with all the time that he's missed here recently. At the very least, if they do activate him to the 53, you would expect him to be in uniform, I think. Or would you? I mean, could he potentially be that fifth guy? I'm trying to go through the roster real quick.
No,
I mean,
they don't have to. If they're going to activate him, they're going to play him. If they're not going to activate him, then they wouldn't dress him this week.
Right. So regardless, if he is in uniform, it will be interesting to see his defensive usage overall in snaps. And I would think it would be a high amount.
But whenever he does come back, would he be active? I mean, I think he'd be viewed as the number 3 corner if Jackson or Porter went down. I think he'd come in over Pierre. He wouldn't take Pierre's spot as a gunner, though. So, yeah, I'm not sure how the pieces would fit. I don't think Sutton would come off. There's too much flexibility and versatility there that Trice doesn't just quite offer at this stage of his career. But as Austin said, it's a good situation to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did think an interesting comment that made me go research this, and you know what it's like. Somebody says something and you go down the rabbit hole of trying to get some more information about Cam Hayward's snap count. And we heard for years, Steve, including the start of last year, about we got to reduce Cam Hayward's snap count and get him out of playing 80, 85%. And Pittsburgh, to their credit, they've done that this year. Hayward is at 70% of the snaps this season, exactly 70%. If that number holds, it would be his fewest since 2012, his second year in the NFL, discounting, of course, last year with the injury situation. So Pittsburgh has managed to get his snap count down at 35 years old and allow him to play fresher and more efficiently. And I think that's one reason why he's having a fantastic season.
And then also how you kind of maintaining him, especially with this short week. He talked about how Mike Tomlin said he's the swim team captain. When Cam Hayward talked to the media, I think it was yesterday there. Big matchup this week for him. Joel Bitonio, those two guys know each other quite a bit. Joel met the Browns media yesterday, talked glowingly, talked about how that's probably the guy he's faced the most in his NFL career so far. So, and look, they've had the issues at the tackle position the Browns have, but up the middle, man, they're still pretty stout with Bitonio at left guard, Wyatt Teller at right guard, and Ethan Posick at center there. So further that you get into this thing, the more cognizant that you could be with trying to control. And look, part of that too is getting off the field. Not having those longer drives will help keep Cameron Hayward fresher as well too. And he has really played absolutely phenomenal so far this season, and especially for a guy his age. No drop off, and a guy that obviously missed the amount of games that he missed last season. So the snap saving the snaps with him at the first part of the season should play dividends, and specifically pay dividends on Thursday night against the Browns.
Yeah, keep him fresh for late in the game.
Conservation was the word I was looking for.
There you go. And late in the season as well. And you're right, they've given him a ton of maintenance. He doesn't, Cam barely practices anymore, which is not a slight. He says he would love to practice, but Tomlin's, being proactive and making sure that his reps are limited. So it certainly worked out there and been huge for Pittsburgh. Anything else from Teryl Austin that you wanted to touch upon, Dave?
No, I mean, we had some praise for Joey Porter Jr. and all like that, but nothing earth-shattering for those two guys, as is usually the case there.
And some praise for Patrick Queen. I think he's done a nice job in zone coverage this year. I think he's been really effective in zone, and so that's been an underrated storyline, I think, of Queen's season. And honestly, on one of those bat downs that Cam Hayward had, if he didn't bat it down, I think Queen might have picked off a pass. I think it's the second time this year there's been like a pass deflection in front of Queen where he probably picks off a pass if that doesn't happen. So good results overall, but Queen, of course, playing his best football these last 2 weeks.
For sure.
All right, Dave, before we get to kind of a focus on the Browns, let's just quickly run through the All-22. I know we've both had to watch it, really quickly here, this Ravens-Steelers game, the All-22. Let's start with the Steelers offense and any new revelations on why this offense sputtered and struggled.
I just think they couldn't find a good rhythm overall in this, especially in the run game. They did have a couple of nice runs in there. You had that wind back with Najee Harrison and Connor Hayward that busted a little bit there. Had another nice run by Najee later in the game. Their inability to kind of stack good plays on top of good plays overall. The pressure we talked about, kind of taking a couple of those sacks nearly back to back a couple of times. I think they had a hard time adjusting to the way the Ravens were trying to play them. I didn't think overall the quality of the play calling / design of things was not lending itself to guys getting down the field. It was forcing situations, I thought, of Russell Wilson having to hold on to the football a little bit longer. There were, a few minor times where I thought maybe there wasn't a lot of glaring, oh, you got to hit that guy, he's open because you have room to get the throw off kind of things with Wilson. I just think schematically, play calling, down distance type situation, they weren't very good. And obviously the third down woes that this team have, was absolutely pitiful to go along with the red zone. They were still able to move the football down though, and obviously the turnovers played into this with the short fields though. You're still able to get the ball down in the red zone the amount of times that you did. I think you pointed out once or twice on Twitter a couple of those red zones looked like the spacing was off, that maybe somebody ran the wrong route within there that led to kind of three guys being in one area, damn near between the hash marks in the end zone on one of those. They did not look like in rhythm overall. Now, as far as the interior, and I said this, I didn't glean a lot of new earth-shattering information by going through the All-22 overall on the offense, but I did think the interior portion of the line, and I said this the other day, Sayamalo, Frazier, and Mason McCormick, I thought they played well, specifically in the running game. I thought Darnell Washington, boy, how much does he weigh now? 470 something pounds, according,
and increasing. Russell said 315, and that's delayed. He gets larger each time somebody talks about him.
I tell you, he's getting larger as a blocker as well too. He really has become a very effective blocker. I think I saw a snatch trap in there as well too, in one of the pass protection type situations for him. I thought that was fine. A lot of RPOs, a lot of dump offs to the running backs. Russell obviously was forced to play more of that shorter game. A lot of the things kind of showed up in the offensive tape that kind of turned people's noses up at when it comes to Russell Wilson and his time with the Broncos. There weren't a lot of deep shots to be had. And I just didn't think the Steelers adjusted very well, both in the red zone and both in the intermediate portions of the field, of trying to utilize some, quick slants, things that would help get the ball out to guys in space, running with the football. And, once again, if you're not converting third downs, it makes things tough. And, obviously, as we pointed out, this team's got to get over these red zone woes these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I just didn't think from a pass game concept standpoint, there was a lot of things that stressed the Ravens defense. It didn't put a lot of defenders in conflict, and it felt a little too like the Matt Canada offense of some more independent routes and trying to trust guys to win on talent alone. And Pittsburgh's receiving core overall just not really built to do that on what is going to be the anniversary of the Matt Canada firing, which will be tomorrow against the Browns, which is funny enough because his last game as a NFL coach was against the Browns before getting fired last year, November 21st of 2023. So hopefully that game plan will change it. I just didn't think there was a great plan in the pass game. I think Smith's done a good job overall. It is just one game, but I thought Baltimore had a good plan. It was kind of more consistently one step ahead. You're right. You're abysmal on third down. It is hard to build a rhythm into that being 4-16. Incredible. This team had the ball for 36 minutes when you're 25% and 4-16 on third down. Thought the run game was getting some traction, had more Zorro toss in this game, some of those wind back plays that you talked about. Basically echo your thoughts. Interior line did a nice job of tackles. Moore and Jones had more issues. Washington, as a blocker, I think he's improved immensely. His snap timing, agreed. But as a receiver, the two seam balls he caught, just great soft hands, quick to the tuck. I mean, really impressive stuff for a guy of his size. And so he's actually had more production than Pat Freiermuth the last 4 weeks. He's had more targets, more receptions, more yards, and hasn't found the end zone. Freiermuth does have a touchdown, but it's a pretty wild stat that Darnell Washington's outproducing Pat Freiermuth.
Look, kind of the three of the biggest plays in that game was obviously the deep ball down the left side to George Pickens, and then the two seam balls to Darnell Washington. It looked like some of the bread and butter, they tried to switch things up with leaking out Pat Freiermuth, blocking, kind of the thing. It's almost like they switched roles between Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington a little bit, but I thought the Ravens did a good job of not, because there was one time, I think specifically on one of the throwaways there where kind of a roll out and expecting to hit Freiermuth leaking out to the side, and the Ravens were wise to that. And when down in the red zone, in addition to kind of looking like the bunch the bunching of the wide receivers and the spacing and all like that, we talked about a couple of times that this team has scored down low. They're been able to get two guys on one side, rub off and get a guy open that way. They obviously weren't able to do that against the Ravens and all. So they're going to have to, when they start getting down in the low red zone. This is a team that's built on running the football, and specifically when you get down in the low red zone area, that's one area where you would expect this team to be much improved at. So we've got to start seeing some of that, because you do kind of worry about Russell Wilson throwing the football down in tight quarters like that, especially in stuff that's not quick hitters and stuff where he has to kind of let things develop and perhaps hold on to the football. So, that's one thing I'll be looking for against the Browns this week is especially when they get down in the low red zone. They've got to figure out ways. Maybe need to spread teams out a little bit more, and try to run from situations that way. We've talked about Justin Fields maybe getting a snap or two down in that situation, but it felt clunky overall. Not enough, obviously, explosive plays deep down the field. A lot of their, big gainers, Sands, the one to Pickens and coupled to Darnell Washington, where the backs getting and George Pickens getting yards after the catch. And they've got to find a way to start utilizing these guys, wide receivers not named George Pickens. We talked about that the other day as well, too, because you got to know the Browns' focus, as most teams' focus is. And look, it's pretty amazing. George Pickens had the 8 receptions that he had and the yardage that he had in that game against the Ravens. But the Browns on a short week like this are going to go into this thing, says, look, we cannot let George Pickens beat us. So you've got to find a way to get the ball in the hands of your other wide receivers and distribute it around a little bit more. And look, one thing, I don't want to give away the farm here as well, too. I think one plus, and I meant to bring this up with Scott Petrak as well, too. Jameis Winston, to his credit, he's spreading the ball around pretty good. Overall. So I think we've got to see the Steelers offense spread the football a little bit around to wide receivers not named George Pickens.
Sure, and those guys have to make plays when the number's called upon, too. Van Jefferson had one go through his hands. Calvin Austin couldn't break a tackle, turned into a 1-yard loss, missed that third down conversion early in the game. So when those guys, they're not going to get a ton of chances, but when they do, they have to make plays to give them some confidence and let the team go back to them going forward. Yeah, Pickens, career high 8 receptions. A lot of it was underneath on soft coverage. I mean, how many 5-yard curls did they hit him on in this game? And then they hit that one deep ball when they finally got it. Cover one look. Last thing I'll mention on that play, the Pickens 37-yard reception, I have a video on it this morning. The coolest block you're ever going to see. First time I've ever seen it from Mason McCormick. It is what you can call a butt block, the old Jonathan Scott, but it is actually a technique and taught by Pat Meyer. It's a recovery technique. McCormick got beat to the inside. He spun around, and while facing the quarterback, facing Russell Wilson and boxing out, the D tackle blocked him. It's a really, really interesting moment there. You're almost never going to see that again. It's a Haley's Comet type of a block there. But McCormick's been a lot of fun to watch on tape to make that transition for all of the obstacles he had to face being a rookie from the FCS level, going over to right guard, all the different technique changes that put a lot of stress on new faces in Pat Meyer's system. I think he's been really, really good. McCormick has, and that block was one of a kind.
Boy, they got 2 studs there in Frazier and McCormick, and just the overall physicality on there, the ability of those guys to get off the line and get out into second level and down the field and try to mix it up that way. You can really sit a Mauler type attitude, and then obviously say a Malo big guy and the feistiness of him. If they could get you would think that they'd be able to run the ball better than they have had. I mean, and they have run the ball good at times, but a lot of that we're seeing later in games and kind of wearing down guys. You just like to see them come out of the locker room, I think, and be able to run the ball a little bit better instead of having to warm up to it overall. I think that's one thing that stuck out to me in the first half of the season is, the run game's been good. It's been better. It's just, it seems like it takes a little while to warm up to it.
Yeah, I'll have to check some of the numbers. I know the team on first down has still been poor overall this year. The run game has been better. Najee had that string of 3 straight 100-yard games. And some of, I think, Pittsburgh's calculation is a war of attrition, where with the power, aggressive style that Pittsburgh wants to bring, the ball control effort they play, that wears teams down. Think about the Chargers game in week 3. It's a good defense. You finally break that front down late in the game. So some of that might be intentional of, we might not have success early, but we're going to be committed and believe those runs will pay off late in the game. But certainly faster starts will be key and hopefully happens on Thursday.
All right.
Going over to the Steelers defense in this one, Dave, what were your thoughts? Again, just thought it was a really good game plan overall. Thought the rush lane integrity was solid. Thought Pittsburgh plastered it in coverage. Didn't let Lamar make too many plays, extended, and then just took the football away and made some really timely situational stops.
Yeah, when you take the football away 3 times on defense, and all 3 of those were earned type situations. They were not give me's. Everything from the Patrick Queen rip out to the Nick Herbig, and as you kind of noted, boy, if you kind of wonder if Herbig doesn't get there, is how big a run does that become for Henry in that situation there? And then we talked about the Peyton Wilson, how he earned that one. I thought Patrick Queen, fantastic game overall. The way they kind of umbrellaed up front there to contain Lamar. He did escape the couple of times that we mentioned. there. Joey Porter Jr. doing a good job in this game. Nice bounce back game for him. We talked about the kind of the mess up on the extended play of Lamar Jackson, getting the ball off to Hill with Sutton on that side. There wasn't a lot of glaring things overall. There was one situation, but I think the way the play was going, there was no chance for Lamar Jackson to see, who was it? Flowers, I think, got tangled up with
Elliott.
With Elliott on one of those and was running free from left to right, wide open. But once again, I think the way the play was developing, I don't think Lamar even saw him. I know that's probably being pointed out by Ravens Depot or whoever, fully breaking down that. But I didn't think that you saw a lot of mental breakdowns in this one overall. I thought the tackling was good overall, and the fact that, look, I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to get his. And I think the biggest faux pas on this game from this game was the way the Ravens attacked it, and it's something else we talked about. I think First Take really got on them the day after the game as well too. How do you let a guy like Derrick Henry not touch the ball in a close ball game more than what you did in that? It's kind of like, I mean, because obviously Henry didn't have a great game overall, but Henry is the type of guy that the more work that you give him, especially later in games, he wears down defenses. And you get into an in-game situation like that where they were having to throw the ball a little bit more, you're obviously going to take touches away from him. But I think the biggest thing that played into the Steelers' hands overall in a close ball game here was the Ravens getting away from Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it too much. I mean, there could be some different explanations. They had to throw a bunch late. They only ran 54 plays overall. Pittsburgh, I thought, had a lot of focus and concentration on taking him away. Lamar had a little more success on those read options, had one for 25, had another, I think the one for 12, 13 yards that Pittsburgh was keying in on the back the whole way and allowed the keep option for Lamar. So those carries come out of Henry's total. So I don't know. There's probably some critique. I don't know why Baltimore would not put him on the field for the 2-point play to give the threat at Derrick Henry being out there in that biggest moment of the game. That was a weird one. But I think a lot of the game circumstance can probably explain away the other stuff. But am I mad that Henry only got 13 carries? Right. I am not. I'm happy, and I'll take that in the rematch for sure.
And look, I mean, they did a fantastic job on third downs overall in this game, and not allowed them to extend a lot of drives. They were just 4 of 11 overall in this game, and as we mentioned the other day, a lot, quite a few of those yards came from the Ravens offense on that final drive there, and then. I mean, one of the biggest plays in the game was obviously the 2-point conversion, timely timeout by Mike Tomlin, and then. Just it looked like they, as I mentioned with Likely and Aguilar, looked like there was a little bit of uncertainty what the roles were going to be on that 2-point conversion. Nick Herbig blowing it up, Joey Porter doing his job on the outside. You could have, if they convert that to 2-point conversion, you just kind of wonder how that thing would have went from there. They did benefit from a couple of missed field goals, obviously from Justin Tucker and all, but that's how it goes, but just overall, just a great defensive game plan, I thought, by the Steelers. Once again, didn't seem to be a lot of confusion overall. Good communication. Patrick Queen, great game for him. Good to see. And yeah, I think that's the nuts and bolts of what stuck out on all 22 with the defense.
And shout out to the defensive line. I thought top to bottom, that was a really good performance. Of course, Cam Hayward. I thought Benton had a good game. I talked about his effort chasing down, retracing that screen on Likely that Queen was able to rip out because Benton was wrapping him up down low. I thought Ogunjobi from the backside on some zone schemes was disruptive. I thought Dean Lowry had an impactful game, pass deflection on a third down and some other, I thought key plays in there. Even Loudermilk had a good stack and shed for one run stuff. So I just thought across the board, Pittsburgh really won up front.
Agreed.
Let me ask you one last thing. Just to go back to the offense, I meant to ask you a moment ago. Ben on his podcast on the Russell Wilson interception is saying, don't put all the blame on Russ for the interception, that Darnell didn't jump on that one. And obviously he didn't. How do you distribute blame between Russ and Darnell in that play?
I mean, Darnell's just really kind of trying to post up. And I think the way the rusher was, like I had said, if what are you doing as if you put more oop than alley on it, then other players are probably going to give other players more time to kind of get to the football in that situation. I just think it was unfortunate circumstance the way the rush was coming at Wilson, the way why it'd be one thing if that defender was not coming at him, then you could drill it more eye level or not put so much oop on it, more alley on it. And the way Washington was posted up, he probably, at least it's his ball or nobody's ball in that situation there. I can't go with Ben. I think the ideal situation on that would have been. And look, here's the thing: it's a third down situation, so you're thinking about, man, I'm just going to waste this by throwing it into the second row behind the end zone there, but you got to come away with points in that situation and live to fight another day. I don't know how else you could have tried to. I mean, and I don't think Washington was kind of expecting it, kind of with his stance. I don't think he was ready to have to go up and get the rebound. Because I think Ben said something like 13. What did he say? Something about you throw it over his head and you got 13-inch advantage or something like that. But I don't know how you get the ball to him in any other way unless you put more oop to it, and then you kind of wonder about the ball being up in the air that much longer.
Yeah, I thought maybe. I mean, to be clear, I don't think Ben is absolving Wilson completely from it, and Russ talked about I have to throw that one away. I think maybe another calculation for Russ in the moment was because he had just thrown the ball away on the play before on the second down, and I think that happened earlier in the game too. So I think he just kind of got maybe a little frustrated of having to keep throwing these balls in the third row and wanted to try to make a play somewhere because obviously if you score there, that really maybe almost salts the game away. But yeah, got to throw that one away just given the moment. And I think Washington, I give him a lot of grace on that one. Trying to judge that ball, is he throwing it away? Like, is he threw it in the back of the end zone, not just where Washington was at, but just kind of like halfway through the end zone? Trying to judge that one. Super, super weird. If anything, if you're going to make that throw, I know it's a really tight throw. I'm throwing it low and away. I'm rocketing it in there and trying to see if I can squeeze it. And if no one gets it, then it's going to be incomplete. And that's all fine. We'll kick the field goal, go up 18-10. So it would have been a tough play there, even if he tried to fire it in there, as a bullet pass. But I would have done that instead of this lollipop to becomes kind of a jump ball situation.
Okay, agreed.
All right, Dave, I think we can take a pause here and start transitioning into Cleveland. We have a great guest on today. You've heard him before, Scott Petrak, who covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram, the Medina Gazette, and you can find all his work over at brownzone.com. You can and you should follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. Let's take a pause and come back with Scott.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday. It is the day before the Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns on Thursday night football. We normally have the beat writers on to help preview the game on Friday, but obviously with the game being on Thursday night, it's going to be a Wednesday edition of that. And we are pleased to have back on the show once again, Scott Petrak. Scott covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. You can find and read all of his work at brownzone.com. He also has the Zone Coverage podcast over there. It's easier to find all of his work in that one place at brownzone.com, and you can keep up with him on Twitter/X at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. Scott, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Gearing up for some Thursday night football on the road in Cleveland. Obviously, the Steelers 8-2, the Browns 2-8 coming into this one. It's been this AFC gauntlet going on now for the AFC North gauntlet going on now with the Steelers coming off of their first AFC North game against the Ravens. The Browns have already played within division here. Let's start with, the quarterback position here. They started the season, obviously, with Deshaun Watson. Things weren't going well overall, and then Watson goes down with the injury. They finally get turned to Jameis Winston. Feels like he's played a little bit better overall. Seems like this team's been a little bit better on third downs the last several weeks. Still struggling to hit some explosive plays, I think, overall. What are your thoughts right now on this Browns offense, specifically with Jameis Winston at quarterback?
Yeah, well, I think he's played a lot better than Watson did. The points haven't been there, though. That's still a problem. The only time they scored 20 points is in the win over the Ravens. They scored 29 to win 29-24. That's the only game all year that they've gotten to 20 points. So, and that was with Winston at quarterback. So, he threw for 395 against the Saints. I thought they ran the ball better against the Saints. They missed a couple field goals, struggled a little bit in the red zone. Third down is still a problem, like you mentioned, even though it's gotten a little bit better. But what Winston gives them that Watson wasn't is the ability to stretch the field. He takes shots. He trusts his receivers. And you just saw a hesitancy from Watson that you don't see from Winston. And I think that's why the offense has a chance with Winston at quarterback. So I think there's signs of improvement there. I think he sees the field better than Watson did. He hangs in the pocket better than Watson did. And so, he started 3 games. He's thrown for 334 and 395 in 2 of them. They won 1 of them. So at least he gives them a shot on offense.
What would you is his ability to stretch the field the biggest asset with him? I went back to, and as far as explosive plays go, he extended the play on a couple of those. I think a couple of those were touchdowns, actually. I think one against the Saints. I'm trying to recall who the other one was against, but is his ability to kind of extend the play and the ability to stretch the field the 2 biggest assets that he brings right now?
Yeah, I mean, the extended play thing, he does a little bit, and we saw that on the 89-yarder to Judy. He slid to his left and found Judy open. And Watson, I mean, that was one of the things Watson did, was he extended the play, but he often ran into sacks, and he just didn't look comfortable in the pocket. For me, it would be shots downfield. I mean, this against the Saints, that 89-yarder was the first 40-yard play the Browns have had this year. So that's obviously a big deficiency. And you just saw with Watson, for whatever reason, I don't know if he was hesitant, the protection wasn't great, and then he didn't trust the protection. It's a slippery slope there. There weren't shots down the field. And Winston is not afraid to hang in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. And that stretches the defense. It opens up things for the run game. So I think that's a big thing. And then the other thing, I think he sees the field better. Watson would have guys open and not see them or not trust it. And Winston trusts it. Now, it might lead to interceptions because he trusts it too much, but he trusts it and will throw the ball and give his guys a chance to make plays, which is why you're finally seeing Cedric Tillman and Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy make way more plays than they did with Watson at quarterback.
A lot of talk about the 2 tackle positions coming in, or really 1 tackle position overall. They've lost a couple of tackles to injury. They just lost Dawan Jones this past week, and then had to go to Jermaine Ifedi over there at left tackle. But you reported yesterday that Jedrick Willis, I think, is expecting to at least be active for this game on Thursday night against the Steelers. Is your is it going to depend on what happens in this next 24 hours with Willis, or do you think they're going to go with Willis over there at left tackle? How do you foresee that playing out?
Yeah, it's Wills, but it's interesting. It's been a really difficult year for him, especially the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's had injuries. He was slow to come back from a torn MCL that he had surgery on in December. Didn't make it back to week 3. They got rolled up on. So he's been in and out. Then he had this comment where he said he didn't play against the Ravens and it was a business decision, and he misspoke, but it makes him sound terrible. And then, in the process, he gets benched for Dawan Jones. The long way of saying, I talked to Wills yesterday, and he said he intends to play, but he didn't know what the role would be. I'm leaning toward it being Jermaine Ifedi at left tackle. Wills hasn't played in a couple weeks. The knee is still not perfect. I think they go Ifedi, but could they go Wills? They certainly could. I mean, he's a former top 10 pick. I think you have to go back to him at some point as long as he's healthy. I just don't know if it'll be on a short week, Thursday night against the Steelers. But I think he'll be active as that swing tackle behind Ifedi. That would be my guess.
Scott, Nick Chubb returning to play Pittsburgh for the first time after getting hurt, that devastating knee injury last year. How has he looked in his return? The numbers obviously aren't pretty, just over 3 yards per carry, a low run success rate, but I'm sure there's some rust and just trying to get back to his previous form. How has he looked overall?
Yeah, doesn't quite look like himself, which I think is to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
And, once he's out there, you're just used to seeing Nick Chubb. So you go, okay, well, where's the 4-time Pro Bowler, the guy that averages 5.2 yards per carry for his career? And it's not there yet. And I don't know if it ever will be there. I think there are signs that it's heading in the right direction. He's had a 15-yard run, a 14-yard run. He averaged 4.5 a carry against the Saints, which was his best game. It was 11 carries for 50 yards. Now, they only played him 22 snaps because of the quick turnaround to Thursday night. So he's getting better. He's not the Nick Chubb he used to be. Like I said, I don't know if it's fair to expect him to ever be there. Now, Stu Staley, the running back coach, said, yeah, that is a fair expectation, that he can get back to being the Nick Chubb. So we'll see when that happens. I do think there's signs in the right direction. And in general, the run game, you finally saw a little uptick in the run game coming out of the bye. I think they're going back to things they used to do. Like I said, Winston opens things up a little bit for the run game. But yeah, it's just watching Chubb waiting for an explosive run, a big play that we got so used to seeing. We just haven't seen that yet.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Going back to the quarterback situation, like you and Dave spoke about, besides David Njoku, who's always a big focus of this offense, who has really benefited the most from Winston becoming the starting quarterback? Feels like Jerry Jeudy's become a more focal point of this pass game.
Yeah, I would, if I had to pick one, I would probably go Cedric Tillman. And part of that is the Amari Cooper trade.
Mm-hmm.
Happened in October. It opened up playing time for Tillman, who's in his second year out of Tennessee. 3rd-round pick. Cooper gets traded. All of a sudden, Tillman gets a bunch more playing time, a bunch more targets. One of those games was when they had Watson started, ruptures his Achilles, or his Achilles ruptured. Dorian Thompson-Robinson plays, and then Winston plays, and Tillman has a big game. Then he has another big game the next week with Winston at quarterback. So I would say him, but after him, it's all the guys. It's really Winston spreads the ball around. Jeudy, you see more for Jeudy, and you see more for Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore did not do much in his first, handful of games this year, and he has shown up since Winston has taken over at quarterback.
When you look at on offense overall here, specifically with Winston, is play action? It seems like they're using a lot more play action overall. I mean, you see some pistol with him and all like that. And here's the other thing. Well, I lost my train of thought here. Mike Tomlin talked earlier in the week about how it's a slippery slope on a short week and playing a division opponent, about how much of the new stuff you put in versus old stuff, because the team's familiarity with that. Obviously this works both ways on the Browns. I guess what I'm getting at is are we going to see a lot of stuff out of the Browns that we've seen these last 3 weeks, specifically with Jameis Winston, and is it just executing better and not so much new wrinkles?
Yeah, I would think so. I think the Browns are having so many issues, really all over the field, but you could just say offensively if you want, that I don't think they got a whole lot of tricks up their sleeve. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that. So I think you're going to get what you've gotten, but the thing is, it is a change from the first 7 games that Watson started to with Winston. Winston it's back to what they did with Joe Flacco at the end of last year, what they did with Baker Mayfield, what they did with Jacoby Brissett. They had tried to go away from that to maximize Sean Watson's skill set, and it was more RPO, it was more shotgun, it was less wide zone, all those things, and it just didn't work for whatever reason, and a lot of it, I think, was Watson. So they've gone back to, under center more, play action more. What I would say is a true Kevin Stefanski offense.
When you switch over to the defensive side of football, one thing that stuck out to me these last several games, and then I checked on PFF for alignment and all like that when it comes to Myles Garrett, are they not moving him around as much as per se, like last year specifically? It seems like he's lining up a lot more just, kind of more specific, I think, on the right side as opposed to the left, and you're not really seeing him used in kind of the middle. Occasionally they'll put him in the middle of the offensive line and stand him up and try to rush him from there. Is that something with him? Is there something going on defensively that's causing that? Is that real?
Yeah, I would say it's real. I don't think they ever moved him around a ton. Probably more than this year, but I don't think it's night and day difference.
Okay.
And I would say one of the factors would probably be Zadarius Smith, before they traded him at the deadline, was having a really good year. So I think they kind of got comfortable with Garrett on one side and Smith on the other side. I do think that Garrett is just more comfortable going against the left tackle. I think that's what he likes to do. Now, he also likes to, search out that matchup, and if that matchup's there, go exploit it. And I think that's a real thing. And if he finds that, they like to try to take advantage of that. So, if you go back to the Chargers game where he had 3 sacks in 4 plays, first of all, Mike Tomlin talked about this the other day. I thought that was great. They singled him up, which doesn't happen. And Tomlin goes, we know better than the Chargers. You can't do that. Right. But he got the left tackle twice, Rashawn Slater, and then he switched and got the right tackle, Joe Alt once. So you do see part of that. And every once in a while you see him try to go to the middle. I want to say, maybe there were 3 or 4 snaps. I thought he tried to go up the middle against New Orleans on Sunday.
Scott, just from a 30,000-foot view, what happened to the Browns defense from a year ago? They were number 1 in yards per game. They were almost top 10 in points per game. They're now 31st in points per game, 19th, I think, in yards. Why are they struggling? They're allowing some long scoring drives. The pieces seem to be generally the same. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. And they haven't figured it out yet. I don't have a great answer. They're giving up way more explosive plays. They're still good on third down. They're not quite as good, but last time I checked, they were coming out of the bye. They were second on third down, which should give you a chance to get off the field, or does give you a chance to get off the field. Part of it is the offense isn't sustaining drives, so the defense is on the field a lot. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to use that as an excuse. I would point to the big plays are the biggest problem. And like Jim Schwartz, the coordinator, talked about last time we talked to him a week ago, was it's not just one thing. For instance, against the Chargers, on a 3rd and 21, I'm pretty sure it was Denzel Ward, jumps a route instead of dropping into whatever, 3 deep or whatever he's supposed to be in. And they give up a long touchdown, a 26-yard touchdown on 3rd and 21. That's a bad play by Ward. Later in the game, half the defense is or 8 guys are playing one coverage, 3 guys are playing in another coverage, and they give up a 66-yard touchdown on 3rd and 6. They had another breakdown like that against the Saints. So you have these just stupid breakdowns, whatever you want to call them, miscommunication or whatever. And then they haven't tackled as well this year, which leads to guys or the other team keeping the ball and converting third downs, and all those things. So it's just they call it little things, right? But it's different things here and there that have led to huge plays. But I'm with you. Like, from a personnel standpoint, they're basically the same.
Right.
And JOK, before he got hurt, was having a great year. Denzel Ward's having a phenomenal year. Myles Garrett's been up and down, but still is a huge impact player in that 7 sacks. So it's really kind of flabbergasting, but it's been a huge difference in the team. Like if you look at, why they're not the same team, there's a million reasons. But one of those is the defense isn't as dominant. And the last thing there is they're not getting the turnovers. And last year they started slow and they got a bunch of turnovers. This year, until last week, they had 1 interception and 3 fumble recoveries. And then Denzel Ward got 2 takeaways against the Saints. But you know how it goes. If you're not taking the ball away and you're giving up big plays, it's a bad combination.
And one of those picks came from JOK, who won't play in this game and seems likely out for the season. Who's replaced him in that middle of that Browns defense? Seems like Devin Bush, our old friend in Pittsburgh, is benefiting and getting some extra playing time. So who's replacing his role, and how is Devin Bush doing out there?
Yeah, the depth chart would be Jordan Hicks, number 1, Mahmoud Diabate, number 2, and then Devin Bush, number 3. So who plays mostly in the base packages. Now, Hicks was out for a while with elbow triceps injuries. So Bush is playing in the, in the nickel pack, in the base and the nickel. Bush has been okay. I think he's got a lot of energy and, you see him out there, but I think he's just kind of just a guy. I thought that on the last week against the Saints was a big 4th and 1 where Taysom Hill got through and went for 33 yards, I want to say, for a touchdown on 4th and 1 in a tight game in the 4th quarter. And I thought Bush got pinned inside and let him get around the edge, and that opened the door for that big run.
My last question for you, Scott, then I'll let Dave finish things up. I know we're focused on the middle of the season, but let's be honest, Cleveland already thinking about 2025. What are the odds that Kevin Stefanski and or Andrew Berry do not return next year?
Obviously, it's a possibility that one or both doesn't. I mean, that's what happens when you have this type of season, right? And that's certainly the talk around town. And if you look at the betting sites, you can find odds for Stefanski, getting fired or whatever. I wrote a column the other day that I don't think Stefanski should be fired. I think it'd be a bad move. I don't know if Berry and Stefanski are a package deal. I don't think they are. And I think, there's probably bigger issues with Andrew Berry, I would argue, as far as some of his roster construction and draft picks and all that. So, I think they're both, quote unquote, in trouble, given or depending on how the rest of the season goes. But I don't think there's any guarantee that either will be fired. They both signed extensions before the season.
Right.
So.
Right. Go ahead, Dave.
Scott, will Deshaun Watson be the week 1 quarterback for the Browns in 2025?
Oh, I would think no. I would bet a lot of money no. Now, you can't rule it out simply because, and it's not about the $46 million that they own the next 2 years. It's guaranteed and they can't get away from it. It's about the salary cap hit.
Right.
You've got a $73 million salary cap hit in 2025 and 2026. So, they're not going to be able to trade him, I don't think, unless they come up with some crazy creative, I just don't see how that happens. So if that's not a possibility, then you got to figure it out. Maybe you just suck it up and you don't want to take whatever the hit would be. Let's call it $170 million or whatever it would be, 120, whatever it is. If you cut him after June 1st and some of the money comes into 2025 and then you save some for 2026.
Right.
Maybe they just say we're done and they do that. But I think there's also a possibility you say, hey, we just have to live with this and he's on your roster if he's healthy, and that's a big if. But even then, there's no way I don't think you can bring him back as the starter. Now, could you bring him back as the 2 or the 3, or he's part of your quarterback room? Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the salary cap makes that possible, makes it maybe even probable. But I don't know how you sell him being your number 1 guy when he hasn't stayed on the field and he hasn't played well, and his replacements have played so much better. I think I just don't think you can do it, and I think fans would be up in arms if you tried to do it.
Scott, what are you? Well, obviously cover the Browns and the AFC North for a while. Know the Pittsburgh Steelers quite a bit. What are your thoughts on the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers as we sit at this point of the season, and really kind of as opposed to what you thought about the Pittsburgh Steelers might be heading into this season? A lot of people had the Steelers last in the division. Saw a lot of 6-11. Heck, I had the Steelers going 9-8 at the start of the season. So where are you on the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers now versus then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm stunned that they're 8-2. I didn't see that. I thought they would finish last in the division, and I didn't think it was an argument that they'd finish last in the division. Obviously, I oversold the Browns and oversold the Bengals. I would never predict 6-11. They're just too good. I saw last year that even when they don't get any kind of quarterback play, they still figure out a way to win. So, I obviously respect that part of it. I'm amazed at how they win these close games, and I think that's going to be part of the preview story I write today is, if the Browns is a bad team, Browns just keep finding ways to lose games. And the Steelers is a good team and is a good organization and good culture and great head coach. Just keep figuring out ways to win games. And that's maybe the most impressive thing there is, period. And, they do it with two different quarterbacks, fight injuries, banged up offensive line. I mean, you guys know all of it.
Right.
It's really impressive. But, yeah, I did not have them going to the playoffs this year. And now there's no doubt they will.
All right, how do you see this game going Thursday night? Short week on the road in Cleveland. Weather probably going to be a factor in this one. The Steelers against AFC North teams on the road under Mike Tomlin don't fare very well on a Thursday night overall. How about a score prediction here?
Yeah, if the Browns had beaten New Orleans, I would have taken the Browns to win this game because short week, all those things. The Steelers, as good as they are, I'm not sure they're a 9-2 team, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And weird stuff happens in the league, and you lose games. It just happens they're coming off, the game against the Ravens. That's a physical game. All those reasons, it feels like a game the Steelers could lose. Having said that, the Browns, like I mentioned a minute ago, the Browns find ways to lose. The Steelers find ways to win. I would not be stunned if the Browns win this one. But there's no way I can predict it given how good the Steelers have been and how bad the Browns have been. So I think it'll be close. I got Steelers 23, Browns 20.
All right. And what's one key thing listeners need to go to brownzone.com to read between now and game day?
Yeah, I mean, I got right now I got a post up about not firing Kevin Stefanski under the analysis. I got Nick Chubb talking about, his first game back against the Steelers since he got hurt against them. And then I'll have matchups to watch and preview, hopefully posted today, depending on if I get to the golf course or not.
I hear you. All right. We'll obviously reach out to you when these two teams. Are you excited about the AFC North Hard Knocks?
Oh, yeah, kind of. You know how it is. It gives me one more thing I got to do. Right. Got to make sure I don't miss anything on Hard Knocks from a work standpoint. I wanted to lose 30 pounds before the Hard Knocks camera showed up, and that didn't happen. I saw him in the building yesterday, so that was a little depressing. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. What I'm looking forward to is seeing inside the other teams' buildings, right? Less about obviously I want to see what happens with the Browns, but I'm curious to see what they show of the other three teams in the division.
All right, we'll look for you. We can say, hey, we know him. We watch
the big dude with the beard that's trying to suck in his gut.
The camera loves you, Scott.
All right.
It also adds 30 pounds.
All right, Scott. I appreciate having you back on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex. We will send people your way to brownzone.com and reach out to you on Twitter/X as well, too. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you a couple of weeks from now. Thanks for being on.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
And clear. Scott, we appreciate your time as usual. And later this afternoon, I'll fire that gift card over to you. Okay. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good day.
Hey, Scott.
All right. Bye-bye.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Scott Petrak, who covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram, the Medina Gazette, and brownzone.com. Follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak, Petrak. Shout him out and let him know you heard him on the Terrible Podcast. And we'll probably talk to him in 2 weeks. So we'll talk to Scott soon. Always great to have him on the show.
Yeah, look for him on Hard Knocks, as we joke for with him as well. Look, when it's got to be tough when you're covering a 2-8 team, and you're getting into the winter months here, and the last thing you want to probably do is go on a podcast. But he's always there for us. We appreciate him. Make sure to shout him out if you're on Twitter/X, and thank him for his time. And he's always there for us and been there for us for quite a few years now. So we enjoy talking to him.
Hey, super quick, Dave. Hard Knocks, since you mentioned it, they dropped the first trailer for the show that'll air December 3rd. What were your thoughts, and just any overall thoughts on Hard Knocks, since the first episode will be coming out in about 2 weeks?
I mean, pretty generic trailer overall. Didn't really. I wasn't blown away by the trailer, other than thinking that it's just a couple of weeks away now from that. I do worry, and look, I'm a big Hard Knocks fan overall, especially in the early days on it, but there's been more kind of bad than good. I do wonder about how much the Steelers are going to allow to be shown in this. I wonder if the product is going to end up matching the hype overall. When it comes to this, and look, you're trying to distribute out time between 4 teams too, and fit that, I guess, within an hour episodes as well too. So I wonder how much of this of behind the scenes, specifically with the Steelers, that we're going to see out of this overall. Obviously the Steelers have never been on Hard Knocks, so there's that aspect of it. I wonder if the product's going to match the buzz.
Yeah, we'll see. I assume there will be some of the behind the scenes elements, because that's what the value of Hard Knocks is. It's the behind the scenes, behind the veil conversations and storylines. I just wonder, off the trailer alone, and I know it's a trailer and it has to be a little more glitz and glam. You got only 1 minute to kind of fit everything in, but I just hope it's not like a sizzle reel of, oh, here's in-game highlights and cool 4K shots of somebody making a great catch. Because I don't need, that's not what Hard Knocks needs to be. I can go find those from the NFL, YouTube account or on Twitter or whatever. So I just wonder, as you said, with 4 teams, can you really delve into storylines and behind the scenes type stuff? Or is it going to be a little more just glitz and glam and top line stuff, because you're trying to focus on the outcomes and the games themselves? There's no real time to really slow things down. And okay, here's this conversation between Tomlin and whoever about some situation that comes up, and here's a 5-minute B story on Danny Smith. Again, I imagine there'll be some of that, but it just might be tougher because you're trying to juggle all 4 teams in there. And I'm sure Hard Knocks was wishing this division was a bit more competitive. When they think they picked it, they thought the AFC North would be a really razor-tight race. It's really a 2-team race right now. But I just hope this doesn't become, here's the glitz and glam and the shiny objects, and you can actually get the true value of Hard Knocks, which is the behind-the-scenes stuff. But as you said, teams have veto power, and I imagine Pittsburgh will be using that liberally throughout this process.
I agree. But I'll watch every minute of it. Have to.
Yeah, as Scott said, it's another thing on our checklist, and we'll be talking about what happened each and every single week. All right, Dave, let's get into this Browns preview. Thursday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on Amazon. For those in the Pittsburgh market, it will be on WPXI. You can watch it on television, so you will not need to stream it, just as a heads up there. So that's one important note and benefit. Pittsburgh 8-2, Cleveland 2-8. Mirror teams overall, but it's still Cleveland on the road on a short week. Pittsburgh has not had success on the road in Cleveland in recent years, and so I take nothing for granted. But Dave, let's get into this Browns offense with Jameis Winston, a better offense than they had with Deshaun Watson. What are your thoughts on Winston and company?
I'll tell you that the Saints game was the first one that I put on, and almost needed to fire up the coffee pot late last night to stay awake with that. It was a close game for most of the game, and then it got away from the Browns in the second half. But they had problems with their running game overall. I think the thing that stuck out overall in the tape that I watched of Jameis Winston, and we talked about this with Scott as well too, is he's not afraid to take the deep shots down the field. Now he's only got three? How many interceptions does he have? Three? Two or three, but he has put the ball in a lot of dangerous situations where there could have been more interceptions than he's had. He's gotten away with a couple of them overall, but without a doubt, I think his ability to push the football down the field is something that you weren't seeing on a regular basis when it comes to Jameis Winston. I mean, Deshaun Elliott. I think he's a couple of plays that he has made has come with him extending the play, a couple of touchdowns specifically there. But I think too, some of the, especially in this game against the Saints, I don't think you saw the pressure with him, especially in 4-man rush type situations where the Steelers are going to hopefully excel in this game. You've got to find a way to have coverage against Jameis Winston and do so with 4-man rushes. I think that's the key to this thing. Obviously, with that goes along with controlling the running game in this one. But it definitely, they've been better on third down overall. Not so much in this game against the Saints, but I think in the small sample size overall, they've been better on third downs overall with him. And then you're seeing a few more explosive plays. But even so, I think they only have 13 or 14 passing plays of 20 yards or more in the last handful of 3 games there, but they're definitely in a better situation quarterback wise than they were with Deshaun Watson back there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing Winston's providing, and as Scott talked about, was pushing the ball down the field. You look at just simple metrics like yards per attempt. I think Watson was 5.5, Winston 7.2. You look at adjusted net yards per passing attempt, your favorite stat. I believe Watson was 3.8. Winston 6.3. Not a great number, but a big turnaround when you're comparing 3.8. And so Winston's always had that no risk it, no biscuit Bruce Arians mentality of push the ball vertically. Got that big 89-yard touchdown to Judy, which was probably about 30 air yards. The rest of it, yak. But you're seeing a gunslinger in Winston. That's always been his game, and Pittsburgh will have to reckon with that for sure.
Yeah, I think he's good at play action and all like that. I mean, they use him under center, they use him in pistol, they use him obviously in shotgun. The timing of their motion on offense in the 3 games that I watched seemed to be a little bit off. The jet guy coming past, coming past way before the snap and those kind of things. I know some of those are by design to see what the defense, but they just look clunky overall in that aspect. For a team that obviously with Nick Chubb and with the other who's the other Ward.
Ford
over there. A team that obviously wants to run the football. They're not. And as good as that interior of that offensive line is, you're just not seeing a lot of big holes. Now, I think what you'll see in this game, I don't think you're going to see a lot of new menu when it comes to the last 3 games overall. They will pull their interior guys. They'll try some zone read, counter type stuff, pin and pull type stuff where they try to get to the edge. But Chubb doesn't look like the same Chubb. He looks better in between the tackles overall than he does out on the edge, and we've seen him gash before out on the edge. The big thing obviously with this, and both teams are going to try to come out and run the football overall, but their running game, at least in the last couple of games, really kind of puts you to sleep overall. They don't have a huge menu on it. It doesn't feel, and They're obviously way down there in runs of 10 yards or more. I think they got, I don't know, 13 or 14 of those from the running back specifically. A lot of a few of the other runs have been, I think, Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson when he was in there. They're just struggling to get the football down the field in chunks, whether it be 10-yard runs or 20-yard passes. Jameis has helped in that area some, but in the meantime, I think the big like I said, a big takeaway with this is even though Jameis doesn't have a high number of interceptions overall, he is putting the ball in harm's way quite a bit. So the Steelers' 4-man pass rush has got to get it done with him. They've got to make sure they don't allow Jameis Winston. He's not a big, huge extend the play type of guy, but where he's had some success though in these last couple of games is making plays on extended plays. And you can't let that happen. He's going to look for David Njoku quite a bit underneath and in some quick slants type situations with him and Jerry Jeudy as well too. So he's in it. I didn't realize this. As long as he's been around the NFL, this is the first time he's going to play the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. First time he's ever thrown a pass against Pittsburgh will come on Thursday night, which is pretty cool. He was suspended for the one game. He did not play with another in 2 previous meetings where his team played the Steelers. When I look at this Browns offense, they've just lost their swagger. They've lost who they were. They were top 5 in rushing each of the last 2 seasons. They're 30th in rush attempts per right now, which I know is partly because when you're 2-8, you're throwing late and having to play catch up, all that kind of stuff. But they've just not been able to have the run game that they're used to having. And yeah, Nick Chubb, I know he's still working his way back. Does not look like the same guy. There was one run against the Chargers where it's him one-on-one in the hole with the safety. And he just goes down easily. Like in the past, Nick Chubb would have been more explosive and made that guy miss, or at least made it a tough tackle. And it was anything but on that play. He's averaging only 3 yards per carry, a run success rate of under 40%. And frankly, it's not helping that there's a really heavy tell when he's on the field. He's played, 50 snaps the last 2 weeks, Dave, and he has 26 carries. And so he's getting the ball half the time he's on the field. And so there's kind of that alarm bell that goes off when Chubb is out there. There's probably some more variance when Ford is on the field, who's been more explosive and been more successful. But their run game, you're right, it hasn't changed. They want to lean on their guards who are talented and can move. They want to run some power, want to run some pin and pull, some crack toss, some outside zone. They run a lot to the boundary side. They're going to try to fit things into that close side and be a little more physical. So alert, outside zone, and some of those big gap runs into the boundary. But yeah, that run game just does not have the teeth that it used to. And that's a big reason why this team's no longer having success.
Yeah, Chubb only 2 receptions, but they'll use the screen game with Ford. I think he's got 25 catches so far. Be interesting to see if maybe they get Nick Chubb maybe involved a little bit more in the screen game there. Jerry Jeudy, I've got him. I know a little bit more about Jerry Jeudy because I got him on one of my fantasy teams here. But he is benefited, and I think Scott pointed this out as well too. He's benefit probably the most with Jameis Winston being at quarterback for them right now. I mean, they've got talented guys in Moore and Tillman. You cannot let Njoku have an Njoku game. You can't let him go 8 for 120 and a touchdown or 2 in this game because Jameis will look for him. I would imagine Jameis is going to probably try to get the football out a little bit quicker than maybe normally he's been doing these last couple of games as well too. And then once again, I think it's paramount. I think the matchup at left tackle over there for them versus Nick Herbig and Preston Smith on that side is one to definitely watch overall. The better that the Steelers can do with 4-man rush situations, with 7 in coverage, either zone or obviously in man, is probably going to be a determinant factor. And look, they come into this game last in the NFL in third down conversion percentage. However, it sans the game against the Saints, but that was kind of a unique game too. Once it got away from them in the second half. I think it was their worst game on third down since Jameis took over there. But he has made them a little bit better on third down than they were prior to him taking over at quarterback. But I think one of the key things, once again, that when we go back on this game is, can they stop the run game on the early downs here? And then when they get in any type pass rush situations, can they get it done with the 4-man rush instead of having, because we've seen the blitz rate tick up the last couple. He's not a threat to run overall, even though they will show a lot of kind of zone read of which you got to crash down on that run regardless and make I think it's a plus to make Jameis keep it in any of those situations. He's not going to do it a lot. In that, they will do some unique stuff where kind of they'll have the jet guy come across, kind of quick, kind of fake play action fake play action to the back, and then try to get hit something down the middle of the field. But Jameis overall, if he gives you a gift, you got to take it away. And we kind of said this a little bit about Anthony Richardson earlier in the season there, a guy that's going to present you gifts during the game, and how you've got to respond and accept those gifts, because you're only going to get 2, 3, 4 of those a game there. So I think that's definitely something to watch. But I'm more interested to see what the Steelers can do with a 4-man rush against Winston, and see if they can take the football away in this game.
Yeah, those big, strong-arm gunslingers cut both ways. They can make some big plays and they can make some mistakes. You better be able to capitalize if you do that. Win the turnover battle, get a couple of picks. You should win this game.
I think you got to. I think you got to dare him to push the football down the field. Really, I mean, I
mean, you do, but also he can burn you on it. That's the concern.
But I would make him earn it instead of hitting those quick, because some of the pluses that they've had is hitting kind of the those quick slants and using Njoku and those running backs underneath there. They will, they're not opposed to kind of paper cutting you to death, but he had sans those couple extended plays, explosive plays overall. Yeah, he's not afraid to take the shots down the field. He just hasn't been over. One of them went out of bounds by 5 yards, I think, in this game against the Saints. He's tried to force a couple where they don't belong down the middle of the field there. So I make him earn those plays down the field.
I don't know. I don't think you have to dare Jameis Winston to push the ball downfield. I think it's in his DNA to do that. I think he's going to do that eventually. I think you frustrate him, make him throw shorter, and make him play a little more conservatively, and that might force him into a mistake because he wants to get anxious and push the ball down the field. Yeah, the pass game, I didn't see necessarily a lot of true tendencies on kind of the abridged tape watching I'm doing. They run a lot of 2x2, and so it's a lot of balanced looks. They run smash at a 2x2, so you might play less cover 2 in those situations, so you don't give up that whole shot on the corner route. In the red zone, they will go vertical. In the half against the Saints, all they ran was 4 or 5 vertical sets out of empty and tried to get some one-on-one matchups. They got some big people down in the red zone. Njoku, Tillman's a big guy. Jamari Thrash caught his first pass last week. Judy isn't a small guy overall, and so they got some weapons to throw to. Akins, their number 2 tight ends, caught 20 passes this season. The one thing to look for, we talk a lot about in Pittsburgh, the Justin Fields package. In Cleveland, I'm sure they're discussing the Dorian Thompson-Robinson package. He had 4 snaps last week, including at least one zone read. He gave the ball to the back, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Cleveland have their own package of a mobile quarterback to try to do something there on a short week, and with some probably nasty weather conditions that'll impact the game a little bit. Is tried out Dorian Thompson-Robinson at Pittsburgh, of course, saw last year and lost that game to him.
Ford's explosive. You got to be careful with him. Goes without saying. Yards after the catch is something that feels like it's ticked up for them the last several weeks, especially on that one to, Judy on the extended play as well. So make sure you're tackling the catch. I thought the Steelers did a good job of that overall against the Ravens. Hopefully that carries over into this game. You got to make them go long field. You got to make them sustain drives, and you got to make them earn any explosive play that they get.
All right, let's go to the Browns defense. And truth be told, Dave, I'm only one game in. I'm finishing the Browns defense tonight in my tape watch. I'm done with their offense, so I did not watch in depth the Saints game. I know Taysom Hill had that monster game, 3 touchdowns, 138 yards. They could not stop him. I watched the Chargers game, obviously, but I'll be a little bit deficient here in my commentary. My overall thought was from that Chargers game, especially, was Cleveland's a very aggressive run front. They're one gapping, they're shooting, and that can make some plays, but also allow some plays as well. But there's talent, as we talked about with Scott. It's still a talented group, kind of like Baltimore, where there's a lot of skill. There's some good coaching. The production, for just whatever reason, has not been there. But I don't want to underestimate this group because there is definitely still talent. I really think at all 3 levels.
I think you got to try to run the football on them and stay consistent with it. I'm looking at wherever if Devin Bush is on the field, I'm going after those linebackers there. I want my guys, my interior guys of Sayamalo, Frazier, and Mason McCormick. I want those guys getting off those blocks on the offensive line, get into the second level. We know Devin Bush's weakness is trying to take on physical guys, getting to the second level. I know they don't have JOK, but he's not the biggest guy either when he was in there. But I feel like this is a run defense that you've got to attack between the tackles consistently. You just got to keep banging it on them and until the dam breaks. I don't want to get into see a situation where this team has to drop back because obviously you got a game wrecker in Myles Garrett on one side. They're going to have to make sure they give Dan more help over there. One of my keys is more help over there, and that's obviously a Captain Obvious situation. You're going to have the tight ends and the running backs chipping on that side. But I think the key to this game plays into the Steelers' wheelhouse, which is run the football early, and then try to build your play action game, suck those linebackers up. And I think they might have an opportunity, even though I think the Browns have been fairly good in the games that I studied against the tight end position. There might be some opportunities to feed the ball a little bit more to Pat Freiermuth. Once again, I expect the Browns to pay a lot of attention to George Pickens down the field and try to learn a little bit from the Ravens game. You might see, a little bit more too deep. I think predominantly they've been kind of a middle of the field defender, closed type situation, playing, cover 1, cover 3 overall. If you add those two up, predominantly what they try to do defensively, and I'd be interested because they don't run a lot of cover 2 overall. They run a lot of man type situations here, and if you do get man type situations, especially the one deep, Russell Wilson's got to take his shots in that situation. You absolutely have to. If you get George Pickens lined up one-on-one in what you need to be a one-on-one situation, you've got to give George Pickens an opportunity to make plays in there. So I think George Pickens targets overall, I don't think they're going to be in a 10-12 area or anything like that. Probably around a 6 or 7 type situation there. I want to see some quick slants to George Pickens. I think this defense can be beat that way. And then once again, you got to give George Pickens a chance in one-on-one situation. The few of them that you might get to push the football down the field against them. But I think the run game obviously is paramount for the Steelers, and between the guards overall in this game.
Yeah, I think you use some gap scheme, maybe some wham blocks to try to earhole some of those disruptive and penetrating defensive tackles. And if you can get through that first level, there's going to be, Pittsburgh should be able to have success running the football. I know just traditionally the Browns play a lot of combination coverages, especially in 3-by-1 situations. Denzel Ward will typically block and man cover the X receiver, which will probably be a lot of George Pickens, and then they're going to play kind of a zone concept to the trip side. So yeah, that matchup, Ward, he's, as Scott said, he's having a good season, a bright spot on that defense. He has 17 pass breakups this year. That leads the NFL. And so I think we get some Pickens on Denzel Ward matchups. So those will be some real 5-star battles. I'm sure Mike Tomlin's talking to Pickens, talking about the weight of that matchup this week.
Obviously we don't want to see a lot of tosses to the edge on this, but maybe if you mix in a few more with Jalen Warren on this, because a quick guy like Alvin Kamara was able to hit a couple of times against them outside the tackles there. So obviously we're going to see a toss a couple of times in this game. Maybe a quicker guy like Warren might be the way to go on that, because once again, if you look at things around both ends when it comes to this rush defense overall, specifically, I think to right end, they're giving up 6.69 yards per carry on 54 runs to that side, 28th rank in the NFL, and then on left end side, which is Myles Garrett's side of things, 24 plays, 8.42 yards. Now, look, they did get gashed a couple times by Taysom and all like that, but I think it's just another reason too to bring in and run in some of that zone read with Justin Fields, because I think either toss or stuff a couple of zone reads of keepers with Justin Fields, you might be able to hit him for an explosive run around one of the ends.
I think play action, Pittsburgh will have to be very careful with using it. And when you have a Myles Garrett out there, somebody that can really disrupt, and you want your quarterback to turn his back and to try to sell the run and then try to deal with Garrett and pass protection. So I think you have to really pick and choose your spots there, want to boot away from him. When he does come off the field, that's when he takes some chances. Pittsburgh last year, was that long touchdown to Pickens? Was that off a play action? I forget. But I know that there was something about they took a shot, or they had a call specifically because Garrett came off the field to try to get an extended pass play, and it turned into that long catch and run touchdown, I think, by George Pickens. So, yeah, I think, you have to identify 95. You're right. He's maybe moving a little bit less than past years, but still talk about stunts and twists and games that they're going to run. You got to identify that. And Garrett's a huge part of that. And he still will shift and move around, play along the interior in some of those third down obvious pass situations. They're top 10 in sacks. They're second in pressure rate. They did lose and traded away Darius Smith, so maybe that's the numbers maybe aren't exactly representative of where they're at currently, but they still can get after the quarterback for sure. I think one thing to look at in terms of, can you create some miscommunication? Because the Browns have really had issues in past years, this year especially, with some blown coverages. Can you use some bunch sets and some switch routes and different releases to try to get Cleveland off kilter and get somebody making a mistake and get somebody running free? I think Pittsburgh should explore that. But obviously on paper, the Browns have struggled. They've regressed. You can run the ball, take Garrett out of the play a little bit, not put yourself in third and long. You should be in a good situation.
They have not been the best tackling team overall the last couple of weeks from what I've seen, but I'll tell you this, they ranked fifth in the NFL in third down percentage at 33.07%. And this is a Steelers team that, coming out of this Ravens game, wasn't great on third down. Third and long, as you just mentioned just a minute ago there. You got to stay out, because it's those opportunities are opportunities for Russell Wilson to hold on to the football, and obviously you don't want to do that with Myles Garrett coming off the other side there. They'll get aggressive in certain situations with the blitz packages and all like that. So you absolutely have to have the first down success in this, probably because of the running game in this, because the Browns as a whole have, conversely, in the red zone, they're not all that great in the red zone. So if you can pick up some of these third downs and move down in the red zone, maybe we can see that bugaboo of the Steelers red zone get better, because the Browns have been not so good in those situations. 63.33%, 24th in the league when it comes to red zone here. So running game, staying out of third and long type situations is going to be paramount.
Just two other quick thoughts I have. The kicking situation, the conditions might be an issue. Pittsburgh's really not had to play in a bad weather game this year, right? Home or away. They've been fortunate this week. Will probably end that with some high 30s, a lot of wind, maybe even some snow in the forecast for Cleveland and the Western PA region these next couple of days. Dustin Hopkins, the Browns kicker, has struggled this year, only making 70% of his field goals. Missed two last week. I think he even missed a third that was negated by penalty. He missed one the week before. He missed one in, I think, week 7. And so I think he's 4 of his last 8 on field goals. And so that could be a difference maker. But Boz will be tested by conditions for the first time. So certainly no guarantees there. And I don't base this off of anything I've seen on tape yet, but listen, the Browns are 2-8. Their season is over. This is kind of like their Super Bowls to play spoiler against Pittsburgh. Watch out for a trick play, either on special teams or some sort of flea flicker on offense. They have nothing to lose at this point. They can try to pull one over on a short week with Pittsburgh. Obviously, neither team can really prepare that much. Can you just put in one trick play situation that might try to swing a game where you're the underdog, which you are at home? You get a big trick play that gets the crowd into it. I'm just saying, watch out for those things.
That's going to be one of my keys. I already have the framework worked out, is expect the unexpected, because you are in a nothing to lose type situation. This is the Browns Super Bowl, if you will. You have to be on alert for trick plays, flea flickers, fake punch, whatever. They've got nothing to lose in this situation, so why not pull out all the stops? Home game Thursday night against the Steelers. So yeah, you most definitely, this is one of those don't get burned by throwback passes, what have you. Expect the unexpected will be one of my 5 keys for this game.
Yeah, and I did not cheat off your homework, for the record, but we're aligned on that. Like, I think about Dallas, they tried that fake punt against Houston on Monday night, and it did not work, or it was completed, but then caught short. But Dallas, desperate team at home, prime time, nothing to lose, backup quarterback. The Browns are in basically the same spot with just a stadium that's not falling apart. That's the only difference between the two. Although maybe it kind of is, because they're trying to build a new stadium and build a dome and get out of Cleveland. But anyway, the point is, as you said, expect the unexpected.
All right,
Dave, any other final thoughts here on the Browns?
No, just excited to get to the game. Had to kind of piecemeal, looking at things and making sure it gave enough time to go back through the Ravens game again as well too. But look, I mean, AFC ball on a Thursday night. The Steelers as a whole have not been great on Thursday night on the road, specifically against division opponents, and short week. And once again, I don't buy into the whole trap game at the NFL level, but this is, this is the Browns Super Bowl. And, obviously Nick Chubb coming off of the injury against the Steelers last year, some extra motivation within all that. So there's going to be a lot of synergy. I'm interested to see how many Steeler fans show up. I did see it. You can't use one instance of it, but I saw one Browns fan trying to sell their tickets on Twitter and all like that. And I thought it was I don't think it was an accident that Mike Tomlin threw out there the other day, that we don't think we're going to get the turnout in Cleveland that we've had in other road games and all like that. So I'm interested to see maybe if there's a bigger smattering of Steeler fans overall, but just don't make the big mistake in this game. Don't give up the big unexpected unexpected big play in this. If you don't turn the football over and you stay within who you are, which is Steelers running the football successfully, if they can get the red zone game going the other direction. I mean, there's a reason the Steelers are favored in this game the way they are on the road and all like that. But they just gotta execute.
And so I ask you, Dave, as we make our picks for this game, we'll save the rest of the Week 12 selections for the Friday show, but we'll make our pick, obviously, for the Steelers in Browns game. Pittsburgh's favored by how many points in this one? 3, 4?
Let me look up the most recent one here with them. They are now 3.5 point favorites. That's gone down a little bit there. I think it started off at 4.5, jumped up to 5.5. And then I think DraftKings got it down to 3.5 right now. I have this as a 3-point game. I think it's going to be a close one. I think the whole short week thing, the whole AFC North thing, the weather, all like that. I still have the Steelers coming out on top on this 20-17. The Steelers have covered quite a bit. And you do kind of wonder, is that going to kind of counterbalance at some point? During these final few games here, because they have been such a good team at covering, and it is
great team. We're a great team.
Yeah, great team. And you do kind of wonder with the line kind of shifting back the way it is. The over under on this is 36.5 points, so not a lot of points expected on this overall. I do have it going over, obviously, at 20-17 at 37 total points, but I think this will be a little bit of a nail biter.
And just make the joke of the old good teams win, great teams cover, and Pittsburgh being able to do both this year. Yeah, Dave, I'll be honest, I'm nervous for this one. And maybe it's just my just nature of being a Steelers fan
Well,
for
we're
so
nervous
long.
every week. It seems
Yeah,
like in these games, we don't get nothing easy these
right,
days. You know,
right. So that's maybe just the way that I'm wired for watching this team for as long as I have. But for all the reasons you mentioned, being on the road, a short week, even though Pittsburgh is pretty healthy coming off a tough Ravens game, the emotional charge it takes out of you, then you're going to get ramped right back up. And this game certainly means a ton to the Browns to try to play spoiler. And as you said, kind of their Super Bowl in this one. Pittsburgh is 2-4-1 in their last 7 games at Cleveland. They've lost 4 of the last 5, and so there is some history, for whatever that's worth, that is troubling in this one. I couldn't get to the point to actually pick Cleveland, but I just have I'm with you. I think it's a close game. I think it's an ugly game given the conditions, given just the nature of these two teams. I got Pittsburgh winning this one by 3, like you, but lower scoring, 17-14.
Wow.
Those classic ugly Steelers Thursday night games. You come out with a victory. It's not pretty given the circumstances of what they're dealing with. I know Cleveland is also having to deal with 4 games, but listen, they're the home team. When you're the home team like that, that's an advantage when you're not having to make that travel on that abridged schedule as it is. So low scoring, ugly. We'll probably talk Friday, not loving it, but 9-2 is 9-2. I got Pittsburgh winning this one 17-14.
if somehow we're talking about a Steelers loss on Friday morning here, it's because they turned the football over, gave Jameis Winston short fields. They got burned on an unexpected play, something along those lines. I think, not great on third downs, not great on red zone, obviously. Russell Wilson probably sacked, 5 or 6 times in the game. All the things that, look, I don't think you can have you can't just sit there game in and game out and have your quarterback with a 3-point whatever adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. The reason I can't say this enough, the Steelers won that game against the Ravens was because Boz made all of his field goals. 9 points came off of 3 turnovers. They won the turnover battle 3-1, and they stayed close in the explosive play aspect of it, and the Ravens played into their hands by not giving Derrick Henry enough touches in this game. You can't expect, I don't think, that even though the Browns are the Browns and all like that, you can't keep trying to win these games like that, especially on a short week. So hopefully we're not talking about turnovers and sacks and getting caught with your pants down on an unexpected play.
Yeah, Pittsburgh does lose, I think, try to simplify 2 things. They turn the ball over. They don't play clean. The Steelers do offensively. And Jameis Winston hit some big plays. That big gunslinger mentality with a couple weapons, because there is some talent to throw to with Judy and Moore and Njoku and Tillman and Akins, all the names we've already mentioned. Winston's able to be gunslinger Jameis and hit some big plays off of that and really open up the offense that reduces the need for some rhythmic drives. They don't need the 10-play drives, let the 2-play drive for 80 yards, that type of stuff. I think those would be the reasons why Pittsburgh would come out with a loss in this one.
Look, Cleveland's averaging 16. Even with the uptick, and as Scott mentioned, their big outburst was against the Browns, but they are averaging 16.2 points a game. They are second to last in the NFL in that aspect. It just, if you hold them to 17 points or under, you should win this game. So. That's why I have them having a 3-point win, 22-17 in this one.
Yeah, they've only scored more than 18 once this year, and that was the Ravens game, Winston's first start. And so you should hopefully be able to keep them under that. But as was the case with Steelers Ravens, you throw the records out the window and history and the stats. You do the same for this game, and that's going to work in Cleveland's favor to kind of make this one tight and close. But we'll see.
They're last in the league and average yards per play at 4.44. They are.
But the difference between Winston and Watson, I'm sure, has to be pretty steep.
Oh, sure. I think if you look in totality, I think that really, because I started looking at the third down stat, was one of the first stats I wanted to look at with them, and they, even though the Saints game got away from them, but I think in totality they're a better team on third down than what they were, obviously, with Deshaun Watson there. But they're a better offense in general with Watson in there. You just got to stymie the running game and not give up the big play.
You said better team with Watson in there, or
I
with
mean,
Winston?
with
With
Winston.
Winston in there. Yeah. Just to clarify. Yeah. Even that Saints game. I mean, Winston threw for 395 and 2 touchdowns. I don't know how they lost that game 35-14. I mean, they were moving the football. They got some big plays, and so even in that what looks like a blowout loss, it was close in the second half. And as you said, fourth quarter, the Saints really pulled away. Hill had some big plays, but even in that game, Winston was having a pretty good showing.
Yeah, but what did he do in the fourth quarter there? Because that thing got away from them
Sure.
as well.
But if they get I mean, if Cleveland's probably, if they'll take a close fourth quarter game and let the chips fall where they may at that point. Because I think to that point, they were having some success, and that game was, I think, pretty competitive, I want to say.
All right.
What was the score going in the third quarter? It was
it was
14,
a close game.
It was 14-14. It was tied in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And that's why I said it got away from them in the fourth quarter there.
Yeah, but if Cleveland says, if we'll take that, we'll take a tie in the fourth quarter, and hopefully we'll be better in the fourth quarter in this game than last week. But if they can get that scenario, they'll sign up for that 10 times out of 10.
All
right, Dave. Any time for your some quick reader emails to close out today's show? I know it's been a longer show, trying to fit everything into. We usually do our Wednesday show and Friday show all into one combined show. Any pressing emails, feel free to share those.
Sean writes in, watching Good Morning Football today, and Kyle Brandt claims he could not say no to podcasts. He's been a huge Steelers fan. He always talks about his kid being a Steelers fan and what a great guest that would be. Any chance you guys could reach out to Kyle Brandt just for some entertainment as a guest? I don't know. Maybe we'll look at him during the off season at all. But usually when we have guests on, it's opposing beat writers to preview a game, and obviously during the off season, get some former players or whatnot on and something like that. So maybe we will, Sean. Maybe that's a good idea during the off season to see if we can reach out to Kyle Brandt and have him. I like him. I think he's a likable guy.
Oh yeah, Kyle's great. Although I think last year he had a pretty anti-podcast rant where he just was kind of venting of like, I just can't go on all these podcasts and do all this stuff. So I don't know if Kyle's doing the podcast circuit like he used to.
Bryce writes in, total team win against the Ravens. Great resilience by our guys this past Sunday. Love to see it. Now it's time to beat the clowns. He says, I know you guys disagree with me when I first wrote in about this, but I think you're wrong that it won't keep us from more success. The fact is there will be a glass ceiling on this offense until they figure out more efficient ways to use the middle of the field with the wide receiver in the passing game. We can expect more consistent top-down coverage from other teams, and we better find a way to beat it, that they aren't just a running game. I don't know how we're going to convince you. I mean, you did see a couple of throws to Washington. I just think where their bread and butter in the middle field is going to be where you're going to have to see a little bit more success, maybe just some slants and stuff like that. I just don't think they're a team with Russell Wilson that you're going to see a lot of seam stuff down the middle, and you're not going to see a lot of dagger dig and Mills concepts and all like that. I just don't think that's who they are. They're predicated on getting the explosive plays more on the outside in the passing game in one-on-one type situations. That way, I don't think this team is built to run the football. I think the better that they run the football with and the more effective that they can get their play action to work to draw some of those guys up might open up a few more passes down the field, more in the middle of the field. But I don't think it's imperative to for what he's saying.
Well, I think I think you're right. I think the reader understands it's not how Wilson wants to throw. It's not how this offense operates. I think his concern is, will that be a limiting factor where if some team comes out and plays a lot of too high and can stop the run out of that, then also stop the deep ball out of that shell, will that really be an Achilles heel for this team? And I think there's some fairness in it. I mean, I still stand by the comments we made previously. I totally get your point, and we'll have to wait and see. But my point is, if we're seeing a lot of too high and teams take away the deep ball, then Pittsburgh has to be able to run. I think they are capable of running the ball, and that lessens the concern about that being an Achilles heel.
Second part, and we answered this on the live stream the other night. Has Corliss Waitman played his way into a long-term solution at punter. Could this spell the end before it even gets started for Cam Johnston? Here's the thing. Corliss Waitman is under contract for 2024 right now. They signed him to a 2-year deal. Johnston's coming off of that knee injury and all. It's going to be a while. You have the luxury of carrying both punters on your roster throughout the entire summer next year, and they will do that. And you can give Cameron Johnson all the time that he needs in the meantime, and you can obviously continue on and showcasing Corliss Waitman. It would not. And if Johnston shows any signs that that knee injury might linger or whatnot, well then obviously you have a fallback option. I think the notion here, though, is you carry both those punters through all of the summer. And as Alex even brought up on the live stream the other night, there is we've seen this team have a 53-man roster with 2 punters, thinking that they could trade one of them away. Ideally, both guys are fully healthy. Ideally, both of these guys are punting well throughout the offseason. And ideally, you trade one of these guys away right before the start of the season.
Yeah, it's all down the road type stuff. And because Waitman's under contract, there's not going to be an immediate need to make a decision. You're going to go through the summer and the spring and see Johnston's rehab and him getting healthy and getting cleared. That's the first step. And then how he looks punting post-injury, that's the second step, which will probably occur really in training camp. Those guys will be in training camp. You take it from there. It's important question. Waitman's doing a great job. I was super excited when they signed Cameron Johnston. I'll be happy to have both in training camp next year. You can just tick that box right now. That's all well and good, but we'll deal with that next August. We got plenty of time to worry about the punter for 2025.
David Ricard says, was Cordell Patterson split out wide several times during the Ravens game, or was that just my eyes playing tricks while watching live? Yeah, they had him. Well, one of the times they went on I guess an RPO to him over to one side, right? To the left?
Yeah, they ran a fake toss, throwback, and then I think was there an RPO or something else as well?
Something other was thrown quick over to the left side over there, and Pat Fryermuth fell off his block, and
it might have been the fake toss play. I don't know if I don't think I would call that an RPO, but it was just a little misdirection,
right?
There, but it didn't work out.
I had to reboot last night, so I don't have Tom's charting up to see how many times he lined up on the outside, but it was more than once, I know. Mm-hmm. He has some graphics in here from the Steelers injury report. Says, do you have any contacts with the Steelers organization to ask them to add lines? He doesn't like the graphics here. No, we don't have any influence with those guys, David. I'm sorry about that. You'll have to get on try to contact Teresa Varley on Twitter and bring up your concerns with her on those graphics. Maybe you get something done that way. Jeff Berg writes in, my number one concern with our offense is the passing game. It seems like teams we play regularly have pass catchers who are wide open, but yet our offensive pass catchers seem to almost always have a defender on us. Perhaps meaning our guys aren't getting separation. Are you seeing evidence of showing our receivers not getting separation? Also, I was hoping Russ, being a veteran, that he could execute a quick passing game a la Joe Flacco, shredding us with a quick passing game when he played against with the Colts. Is there a reason Russ can't execute quicker passing attack when pressure seems to be hot and heavy? Look, I mean, one of the things that stuck out was obviously developing plays down the field with the Steelers pass catchers not getting separation. They were plastered. They were plastered pretty good against the Ravens on a lot of plays. Russ can do the quick hitting game. They just haven't concentrated enough on that.
Yeah, it's not his number one style in which he wins, but he's certainly capable of it. I mean, when you're a veteran who's played and has won as many games as him, you try to win games in different ways, and they're not all true moonball stuff. Yeah, Pittsburgh does not get as much separation. They don't have the talent that other teams do, but I also think we're more critical of our own team than we typically are the opposition. And if you watch any team for an extended period of time, you probably would end up having similar type of complaints. So I think there's a little bit of hyper focus on that, which we all do. It's not a critique, but I would just point that out as well.
Tony's a little bit hyper-focused as well here, too. Gentlemen, thanks again for the best coverage in the game today. You forever ruined ESPN for me by showing me what good commentary really is. Well, thank you for that. True or false? Russell Wilson is regressing. To me, the longer he starts, the worse he is getting. I'm curious if you agree. Well, without a doubt, the game against the Ravens was his worst as a Pittsburgh Steeler. We talked about the small sample size, the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. I thought he was responsible for a couple of his own sacks in that game against the Ravens. The way you make him look pedestrian is do more of the shorter stuff, dumping off to the backs, dumping off underneath. But I'm not fearful. I'm not fearful, if you will, of him one game sample size being a regression.
Yeah, there's going to be ebbs and flows to this whole thing. Most quarterbacks ride a roller coaster. Very rarely, only the elite quarterbacks are, top tier throughout an entire season. It's a tough game against Baltimore. Like it's Steelers Ravens. Those games always go pretty messy, and I'm just happy you get the win. When you play Baltimore, my whole metric is just, did you win the game? Like style points matter even less than they usually do, which they don't always matter a ton. But when you're playing Baltimore, a tough team like that, a really good outfit, I'm just happy to get the win, and I'll let everyone else judge the rest. But I'm happy with the W.
I got some shocking breaking news coming in for you, Alex.
I know where you're going with this one. Hit me with the special teams news.
Chris Boswell has won the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week award for Week 11. Were you sitting down?
I thank God I was. I'm getting the smelling salts out right now. But yeah, 6 for 6, and what a great day by him. And that article is already up because we might have had that one written and ready to go, expecting Boswell to win the award.
Yeah, we cheated there. I think that was a captain obvious there, but good on him. 6 for 6 in the game against the Ravens there. I think that's a good place to leave this thing on a short week. And when we come back on Friday, we'll talk about the outcome of Steelers Browns. Hopefully we're talking about the 6th consecutive Steelers win. Should be a fun time Thursday night. Going to be a late one. We'll pound in as much tape as we can between getting on Friday, but I mean, that's we've gone a little bit long, obviously, on this one today, and with good reason. Have a lot of good breakdowns and stuff coming on SteelersDepot.com in the next 48 hours, obviously, and I think that's that. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions that way. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.